Your property manager just cost you $4,800, and you don't even know it yet. Not in one bill, not in one obvious mistake, it happened slowly. A maintenance markup here, a vacancy day there, a lease renewal fee you forgot was in the contract, and a tenant complaint that sat in someone's inbox for 11 days before anyone called back. That's the story playing out right now across California. And it's why landlords with 2 units, 5 units, 10 units are looking at their management agreements, doing the math for the first time and firing their property managers. Not because the managers are criminals, because the model is broken, and once you see the numbers, you can't unsee them. Something shifted. It didn't happen overnight, but 2026 is the year independent landlords finally hit their breaking point with third-party management. And the reason is specific. It's not that property managers suddenly got worse. It's that the cost of being passive just got too high to ignore. Here's what's driving it. California rents plateaued in most major metros coming out of 2024 and 2025. When rents were climbing 10% a year, a property manager's cut felt like a rounding error. Now that your rent on a 2-bedroom in Fresno or Sacramento or the East Bay is flat, maybe up 2%, that 8 to 12% management fee isn't disappearing into your appreciation gains anymore. It's coming straight out of your cash flow. On a unit renting for $2,200 a month, a 10% fee is $220 every single month. That's $2,640 a year, per unit, and that's before the leasing fee, before the lease renewal fee, before the maintenance coordination markup that most managers tack on at 10 to 15% above actual repair costs. A landlord named Marcus in Stockton, 5 units, owned them for 9 years. Told a story that a lot of you will recognize. He'd been with the same property manager for 6 years, never questioned it. The manager handled everything. Marcus got his checks. Life was simple. Then last spring, one of his tenants moved out and the unit sat vacant for 47 days. The manager listed it at the same rent as 2022. Didn't adjust. Didn't call Marcus. Just waited. Marcus lost roughly $3,400 in vacancy during that stretch, plus paid a full month's rent as a leasing fee when the new tenant finally signed. He sat down, added it up, and realized he'd paid his property manager over $19,000 in fees across 6 years while the manager had made exactly 2 decisions on his behalf that he knew about. That's the breaking point. Not fraud. Not negligence in a legal sense, just misaligned incentives dressed up as service. Let's get specific about the money because vague resentment doesn't help you, knowing the exact structure does. The standard California Property Management Agreement has 4 to 6 distinct revenue streams built in, and most landlords only think about one, the monthly management fee. Here's what you're actually paying. Monthly management fee, 8 to 12% of collected rent. On a $2,000 unit, that's $160 to $240 every month, whether your manager does anything that month or not. Leasing fee, typically 50 to 100% of the first month's rent every time a new tenant moves in. Lease renewal fee, often $150 to $300 every time a tenant renews, even if all that renewal involves is sending a PDF. Maintenance coordination markup. Most agreements bury a clause allowing the manager to charge 10 to 15% above vendor invoices for coordinating repairs. Vacancy fee. Some managers charge a reduced fee even when the unit sits empty. And finally, early termination fees if you decide to leave the agreement, sometimes 2 to 3 months of management fees. Now here's where it gets interesting. None of these fees are illegal. They're disclosed technically in the contract you signed. But they're disclosed the way a casino discloses the house edge, in small print, in language designed to be skimmed, after you're already emotionally invested in handing the problem to someone else. A 2023 survey by the National Association of Residential Property Managers found that fewer than 30% of landlords could accurately state all the fees in their current management agreement. That's not ignorance. That's a contract structure engineered to stay invisible. So before you fire your manager or hire one, you need to read every line of that agreement as if your cash flow depends on it, because it does. Here's the question you're probably already asking. If not a property manager, then what? Because the reason landlords hire managers isn't stupidity, it's genuine fear of the workload. Tenant calls at midnight, maintenance coordination, legal compliance, screening. It's real, and dismissing it doesn't help you. But wait, there's a catch to the fear itself. Most landlords wildly overestimate how time-consuming self-management actually is once you have systems in place. The chaos you're imagining is the chaos of doing it badly, not the reality of doing it with the right tools. Here's what a realistic self-management week looks like for a landlord with 5 units in California. Rent collection. Automated through a payment platform, 15 minutes a month to review. Maintenance requests. Tenants submit through a portal or dedicated line. You have 2 or 3 vetted vendors you call directly. No markup, no coordination fee. Lease renewals. A templated California-compliant lease updated annually, sent digitally. Tenant screening. An online application with credit, background, and income verification runs in under an hour. Legal compliance. California's landlord-tenant law is complex but learnable, and the specific rules that apply to your situation. AB 1482 rent caps, local ordinances, habitability standards can be understood and managed without a law degree. Sandra, a retired teacher in the East Bay with 4 rental units, self-managed from day one, when her sister suggested hiring a property manager after Sandra's 3rd tenant turnover in a year. Sandra ran the numbers instead. She calculated she was spending, on average, about 4 hours per month per unit on management tasks. At a management fee of 10% on her average rent of $2,100, she would have paid $8,400 a year to outsource those roughly 48 hours of work. That's $175 per hour of her time valued by that fee. She kept managing herself, put that $8,400 back into her properties, and used it to fund a bathroom renovation that increased her rent by $250 a month. The math wasn't complicated. It just required her to actually do it. Now here's where it gets interesting, and where a lot of landlords make a costly mistake. Firing your property manager without a plan is not better than keeping one. Done wrong, the transition creates exactly the chaos you were afraid of, and California law gives you very little room for error during a handoff. The first risk is the lease assignment. When you terminate a management agreement, you need to confirm that all existing leases are properly transferred back into your name or your LLC. A lease that's technically managed by a company that no longer represents you creates a legal gray zone that a sophisticated tenant's attorney will exploit. The second risk is the security deposit chain of custody. Under California Civil Code Section 1950.5, you are required to maintain security deposits in a specific way, and you must be able to account for every dollar. If your property manager was holding deposits in their account, not yours, you need those funds transferred immediately and documented in writing. Get a signed receipt. Get a bank statement. Get it in writing before you terminate anything. The third risk is the notice period. Most management agreements require 30 to 90 days written notice of termination. If you stop paying the fee before that period ends, they can withhold funds, documents, and tenant information. Read your termination clause before you send any notice. Send the termination notice certified mail, keep a copy, and follow the timeline exactly. A landlord in San Jose named Derek learned this the hard way. He fired his manager over a dispute about a maintenance markup, gave 2 weeks' notice verbally, and assumed it was done. The manager held $6,200 in collected rent for 60 days, claiming Derek had violated the termination clause in the contract. It cost Derek $1,100 in legal fees to resolve something that a careful contract review would have prevented entirely. The firing was the right call. The execution was the problem. What's actually replacing property managers in 2026 isn't just landlords doing more work. It's landlords getting smarter access to the information and tools that used to justify paying someone else to know things you didn't. Rent pricing data that used to require a manager's market knowledge is now available in real time. Lease templates that used to require a manager's legal expertise are now built to California compliance standards and updated when the law changes. Tenant screening that used to take days now runs in minutes. Maintenance vendor networks that used to come with a manager's Rolodex are now accessible directly. The rhetorical question you should be sitting with right now is this: what exactly is your property manager doing that you could not do yourself with the right system in less time than you think? For some landlords, the honest answer is still a lot. If you have 20 units across 3 cities, if you travel for work, if the administrative load genuinely exceeds your bandwidth, property management, done well, has value. But for most independent landlords in California with 2 to 10 units, the manager isn't adding $2,640 per unit per year in value. They're adding convenience, and convenience is worth something, but probably not that much. The landlords firing their managers in 2026 aren't doing it out of frustration alone. They're doing it because the tools that used to make management inaccessible without professional help are now in their hands. The information asymmetry that kept you dependent is closing, and when you close that gap yourself, you don't just save the fee, you get the thing the fee was supposed to buy you: control. Recap. Here's what you need to take away from this. First, the property management fee model has multiple revenue streams designed to stay invisible. Know every one of them before you sign or stay in any management agreement. Second, California's flat rent environment in 2026 means fees that once hid in appreciation are now coming directly out of your cash flow. Run your actual numbers. Third, self-management is learnable and systematic, not chaotic when you have the right infrastructure in place. Fourth, if you do fire your property manager, do it legally. Read the termination clause, secure your deposits, get the lease transfer in writing. And fifth, the tools that made management expertise gatekept are now available to you directly. The question is whether you're using them. You're not firing your property manager because you're cheap. You're firing your property manager because you finally did the math, powered by LeaseBase intelligence.